good morning and welcome. Please help yourself to some coffee and snacks if you would like that. Good to have everybody back at the Main Street Community Meeting. Thank you for being here. Let's see, a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to hear from Jennifer from the YMCA and Chuck Green's here from the city. We did just have our wine walk, which was very successful. It just continues to be a really, really fun event. What we know from the ticket sales is that half the people not only came from outside of Ridgefield, but from Portland area. So actually we are really having a good reach with that wine walk, and the wineries seem to love it, the merchants love it. It really is just a great event for us, and we just continue to kind of improve on our execution of it on the back end, and it's just a really fun event. So we already have the next one scheduled for November 1st, and we'll wait to hear some details about that. We did also have a moolah weekend, and again, we're taking a look at where we mail the moolah out. So the campaign generally is spend 30, get $10 in moolah. So people send us receipts, we send out moolah, and we are mailing moolah, about half of it, that seems to be the word of the day, but about half of what we sent out for the May Moolah weekend went out of Ridgefield. So we just really like the outreach that we're seeing.
What is moolah?
Main Street Moolah is like a gift card for downtown. It's that little thing that looks like a $5 bill. There's a picture of it in the newsletter there. When people use it you just spend it just like cash, and we go and reimburse the merchants dollar for dollar for the moolah that's used. So we keep a lot of records of which merchants we reimburse. We know where the moolah goes, and we know where it comes back in, and we've got a lot of good data on that moolah. So last year we did reimburse about $12,000. Our budget was $10,000. And we are well on our way to increasing that number for this year. It seems like a very direct impact support program that we can do through our Economic Vitality Committee, and the merchants love it. So after we had that discussion in the board meeting last week, the board decided that because of slow winter months, because of the detour and the Pioneer Project, that it wanted to extend moolah weekends every weekend from now through completion of the project, or April 27th. So we are doing ongoing moolah weekends. So we're getting that out on Facebook. We've got some cards out. It is quite a bit of work, but it's just such good information, and whatever Main Street can do to encourage people to come downtown, we're doing it. That is our mission. So look for those notices on socials, and we've, like I said, got some separate cards, and just help get the word out that moolah weekends now through April 27th. Let's see, I think other thing I wanted to mention quickly, we did, for community meeting schedules, I said at the beginning of the year we were going to try to go maybe every other month. That was February. We had a snow day. We are here in March. We also talked about evening community meetings. So an evening community meeting is scheduled for April 17th. That's Thursday, April 17th. Again, we'll get the word out. But we also wanted to try doing this in the evening to see if we can reach different people, more people. So similar information to what you're hearing today, but we're doing it in the evening in April. And if there are updates to the information, it's a great opportunity. But we would just want to see what an evening meeting, community meeting is like. Yes, Rob?
Does Main Street moolah also count if you go out to business on a Friday, or is it just Saturday and Sunday?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Good question. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Any shopping Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Or going out to eat at one of the local restaurants on a Friday night?
You receive any downtown receipts.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it could be services. I mean, we're seeing haircuts and tailored fitness workouts, and obviously gift cards from Season. Any downtown shopping. Absolutely. Yes. Okay, I think that's it for me right now. I would like to introduce Jennifer Lawrence from the YMCA. I'm excited to hear this update.
Yeah, bear with me.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, the 17th is not a day.
Oh, dear. Not a Thursday?
Okay.
Not a Thursday.
I'm saying the wrong
Not a
thing.
city council day?
No, it's not. I just looked.
Oh,
Oh, good.
I think we did, I think that's why we switched to that day. Yes.
That's fine, yeah. All right. Well, hello, I'm Jennifer Lawrence. I'm with the YMCA. I am the executive director for the Ridgefield project. And I brought up my colleague here. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh, and I'm Kim Conway. I'm Roger Button, Vice President of Community Development and Association Chaplain for the YMCA.
So we just want to come up and give you an update on where things are with the YMCA. First of all, this will be our 4th summer here doing programming, summer programs, summer camps. And so we're excited to be at Abrams Park and a couple of camps here because we use Wi-Fi for those ones. So we do everything from Legos to Glee to nature navigators for our 4 to 12-year-olds that we'll be doing camps for. We're also going to bring back our picnic in the park program. So I don't know how many of you interacted with that last summer. We started the spring. We were partner in Vancouver with an organization called Share that makes sure that kids have hunger relief in the summer when there's a gap between the school lunch program. And they reached out to us last year about this time and said, hey, do you want to do Ridgefield too? And I said, of course we want to do Ridgefield too. And we got everything lined up of where we were going to do it and some volunteers scheduled. And then about a week before we were scheduled to start, they said, hey, I called Roger here and said, we made a mistake. Ridgefield doesn't meet the poverty level by 2%. First of all, it was surprising to me that we were that close up here. And so that means there's more people in this community that need than we often think about. And so that's one thing to keep in the back of your mind, is that we need to be making sure that we're realizing in this community there are people that are in need. But we didn't accept that answer. We said, that's not good enough. We're not going to not feed kids. So through what can be a long story that we'll keep short for the sake of time today, we decided to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We had support from the Family Resource and Chris Poppert here with the school district, and the Lions Club stepped up and helped us get some funds. And we served between 80 and 100 people on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday all summer, last summer. And it became really obvious to us very fast that there was definitely people there that were in need of hunger, but there was a lot of people in the community in need for community. And so it was a really fun, the word spread very fast between the moms groups of like, have you gone to picnic in the park? And we had this great spread of Subway style sandwiches where we had bread and the kids got to tell us what they wanted on their sandwich and we made it for them. They had chips and cookies and apples. And so this summer though, go ahead.
Well, the thing, we love Share, and they're a good organization. We've partnered with them for years, and we are the largest feeder of kids in Vancouver down there for a number of years, and so that's why they called us. And I said, well, I don't know what we're going to do for food. And they said, well, we'll give you the food for what we get reimbursed for. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, what's that? And they said, $10. And I go, I can't afford that. Because we were doing between 80 and 130 actually. And so that, you can do the math. I can't, but you guys can. And but we were doing artisan bread. All these things were donated. Tillamook cheese. We had everything. And you know what it cost us because of all you good people? 87 cents a lunch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the thing of it was we really did think we were coming in to address the kids at risk for hunger during the summer, but it turned out to be families at risk for loneliness and social isolation, and it was something. The best part was I got to drive my YMCA bus past Steve's office, blaring the YMCA music. Every day I go, I bet he's gonna call me and say something. But he never. So yeah, it was a really cool thing.
So this summer, we're going to do Monday through Friday, again
Yeah.
at Davis Park. So if you have any inkling that you'd like to volunteer, it's a very fun program. We're just looking for people to, 1, make sandwiches, and 2, just be there. Like, it's just, we're making connections and meeting as many people as possible. So, did you have a question?
Yeah, you said it was, didn't meet the standard by 2%. What is that standard?
Did they ever say what the poverty level was? I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that is.
It's a federal level
It's a federal guideline
For
that
the,
do.
because the way Share gets money for the food specifically is federal dollars, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you also have a question?
I was just wondering, are there any additional activities offered to the kids once they're down there?
Yes.
And this is down in Abrams or?
Or actually, we do that one at Davis.
Davis.
Do it at
So,
Davis? Okay.
we have our parachute out a lot of times.
Okay.
Roger, when his ankle's fully healed, will play football again. We have some games going on.
Okay.
The library comes out on Wednesday with an art table, and so we've had different. The firefighters came at one point last year and handed out
Yeah.
badges and hats, and so we're trying to bring in different community organizations and different
Well,
events.
and the musicians that are typically
yeah.
at Outlook Park,
They came a couple
they,
times.
they came over. And so we had concerts. Well, I mean, this thing was the craziest thing you ever saw. It was just, and we were just there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it was cool what y'all did.
There's an opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely took the community to make sure that that happened. So we were really blessed. We're excited to do it again this summer, make it bigger, make it better. Also, we're doing our after-school enrichment in conjunction with Community Ed here. We have been doing elementary age. I'm really excited to say that this year we added some middle school. We're doing chess club, which has been really popular. And we'll be doing youth and government class this spring, which is an exciting opportunity for the kids to learn about our process of government, to get their own ideas for a bill. I know Joni came and heard them present last year. They do a mock legislation right here in this room, and they present the bill that they created. And there was some great ideas, right, Joni?
Yeah, they were, I mean, there was something about, like, milk, I mean, really very pertinent to the work that they're doing in school or like their lives. And it was just fun to hear them explore those opportunities and like speak so eloquently in front of a large group.
So they'll be doing that again on May 30th. I think that's a Saturday, better double check. I don't have my phone on me. So it's the Saturday, right, the last Saturday of May here. And we do invite their parents, were mainly the public that came, but we'd love to have some other public come here. The 31st, thank you, I was close. And that morning they'll do their presentations. And then our active older adults have been doing fitness at the library every Thursday morning. That class is full most Thursdays, and we're excited for that. We also have our Spice of Life dinner coming that we want to invite anybody to. It's Wednesday the 19th, this coming Wednesday. We're doing a St. Patrick's Day theme, and the way that dinner works is everybody brings a dish. It's not potluck, but it is. You get assigned a dish, so you don't just get to pick what you bring. You get assigned a dish. You cook. For me, one of the times I cooked that dish for the very first time. You bring it. There's lots of conversation around food. It's easy to have community, so that's a fun one. We'd love to have you come to. And then Healthy Kids Day is coming up on April 26th. That's a YUSA event that we do. It's kind of an unofficial kickoff to summer. What are the things that families can be doing to have healthy, active activities for summer? So we'll be doing that at Davis Park, and we'll have a lot of community partners there with what can kids be doing this summer, whether it's reading or summer camps, or we get dentists out to make sure everybody's taking care of their physical health too. But what I know you're all waiting for now. I make you all listen to the programs first. It's kind of the update on the building. So we have had a lot of conversations about the design of the building. I don't have any pretty pictures for you today, but where we're at is going to be a recreation center and a community center with a zero, and Steve's here to fact check me all the way. Zero lot property line down with it, but when you come as a user, it's going to be very streamlined. You're going to feel like it's just all one space. So for extensive purposes, the city will own the community center. We are fundraising and capital campaign right now for the recreation center. The entire project is about 38,000 square feet. It will include a rec pool, a lap pool, a full gym, a walking track, workout spaces, a lot of the cool thing about the community center is there's going to be a lot of spaces for meetings and events and programs like that. So
For all ages.
What?
For all ages.
For all ages, of course. So with that capital campaign, The Y has began fundraising. We have 1.7 million pledged and raised at this point. There's still a long ways to go. What we're doing currently is we're working with a few entities to get that lead donor secured. And then we have been cultivating relationships with major donors that would be right under that. And then it will go to a community campaign phase where we'll be looking to the community as a whole to really make this a reality. So the kind of the timeline that we're looking at, and this is where I'm going to look at Steve a little bit more, hopefully looking at breaking ground next year in the beginning of the year. So did you have something to add?
No, I mean, it's just really exciting. This whole thing is so exciting. We talk with a lot of people, and I'll share about the swim thing. We were talking with one person with means, and he just looked at me and goes, you know, when my kids were back in school, Ridgefield used to give free swim lessons to every kid in elementary school. And I was going, wow, that's pretty amazing. He goes, yeah, I wish we'd still do that. I go, well, what would it look like if the YMCA gave absolutely free swim lessons to every kid, not only in Ridgefield, but in all of North County? Because I'm the chaplain that goes to trauma, and I have gone to the Sandy River more than once to meet with families whose kids have drowned in the river. And so that's real important to me. I've talked with Randy about this stuff up here. And that person says, give me a number and we'll make it happen. And so one of the things that we're really excited about is once we get this rec center built, not only is it going to be a place to congregate and do all of these things, but this community will be a big part of saving lives while we're doing it. Because we live on a river. We got a river, we got lakes all around us, we got a lot of water. And what we like to say is the world's 75% water and kids are 100% curious. And so that's something that's very exciting for us.
Yeah, Randy.
When I asked you before about the small, because I'm not a big donor. I don't know how many of those are in the room that could do like $1 million checks, but when can we help? When can we contribute? You mentioned that that's kind of later after the big ones, and I forget what the percentage was, but you said there was a certain percent of all this you thought would be raised by kind of that small donor. Could you kind of go over that and when we might see an ask or an effort around the community?
For sure. So the traditional campaign goes from that lead donor to the major donor that I mentioned, and then it opens up to the community. That bigger pieces is usually 80% of any capital campaign to raise money. And then it's 20% comes from the community as a whole. So what we're thinking is around fall, we would be able to launch that community campaign piece, and that will be very public and very button down with messaging and coming to everybody to say, hey, what can you do to make this a reality?
Thanks.
Yeah.
So are there federal dollars or state dollars that will be helping make this capital campaign?
We don't have any secured at this point. We have had conversations about what our approach is to make that happen. Yeah.
I have a question. So years ago, there was some talk about, since the property is a city asset or community asset, that if you lived in the 98642 zip code, that there would be a discount on your monthly membership. Is that still a thing? And if so, do you know what the discount would be?
So there definitely will be a benefit to people who live in the 98642 zip code. Whether it's a no joining fee or a discount on the membership, we haven't got that far into the very much details of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and once we have this beautiful building.
Yes.
And it's, I'm just gonna call it uptown, are activities that are currently happening downtown going to continue?
Every YMCA should be a hub for the community, and what I mean by that is that the building is just a center where we can do more. It's not replacing what we already do. So I have a love for Abrams Park. I never, ever, ever want to take summer camps out of Abrams Park and put kids inside 4 walls.
I don't think we'd ever move summer lunch from Davis either.
Yeah, the only reason is if there's a problem, you know,
Yeah.
like a conflict where we couldn't use those spaces. But I do want to keep things active and opportunities throughout the community and actually throughout all of North Clark County. So we're going to do summer camps in Woodland this summer. We're looking for how we can impact the center. This building will be the hub for all of that, where the staff are kind of centralized, but then they go out into all parts of the county to make sure that we're impacting everybody. Great question, thank you. Yeah.
Will there be after-school programs there for kids?
So there will be, but I also, again, really believe that using our schools is important too. So right now we do the after-school programs at Union Ridge, South Ridge, Sunset Ridge, View Ridge, and making families come to a center is not a great idea because then they may have some transportation issues. So there will be some opportunities for classes there, but I hope that we'll be able to continue being out in the different areas of the community as well.
Jennifer, will you say again what's the building? Swim, track? I mean, we just.
Yeah, so there's a rec pool and a lap pool, a full-size gym with an indoor walking track elevated above it. Then there'll be workout spaces, group fitness classrooms, that kind of thing. I will say, if you haven't been down to the Clark County YMCA, if you want to ever come down and just do a tour, the pools will look pretty similar. The walking track is going to look similar. The size and capacity is a little different, but a lot of the features will be similar, but with new and exciting equipment. Any other questions? I want to say thank you for all the support. This community has been so great in this process. It's been longer than we'd hoped for, but everybody's still excited, and I want to keep that enthusiasm going. So we're happy to be here. We're excited about the things that we've been able to start and what we'll be able to do in the future moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you both. And one of the taglines is, the building is coming, but the why is already here. And I know that they've been working hard for a number of years, and it's just really good. We do, Main Street participates in the Healthy Kids Day, and we have a little Kids Moolah campaign that goes along with that, and we just love that day. So great work, and thank you. Okay, next on the list is Chuck Green.
All right.
You want me to name your thing, or I can turn it around?
Or, well, I mean, yes, that'd be great.
You want to do it?
No, you could.
I'll do
you
it.
could do,
I'm right here. You bet.
But before I start, you'll see on the back table, I put these things. We've kicked off what's called an accessibility and mobility plan. It's formally called the ADA transition plan. It's a requirement if you want to get federal funds for projects. But noting that we're talking about downtown, and if you've walked around downtown to look at the sidewalks lately, that's going to be part of what we're going to look at and kind of create a program to start fixing them. Just to give a teaser, the flyer gives information, but I'm going to be at the State of the City on Tuesday night. Steve can talk a little bit more about that. And there to answer a lot more questions in detail and offer opportunities to get involved with this, because it's actually a pretty big deal. One of the things I've been trying to get funded in the 2 years I've been here, and we got it. So let's move to parking. Those of you who've been attending these meetings over the last year and a half or so, you've seen we come a couple times to talk about downtown parking. Well, tonight, council is going to take this up and hopefully approve a downtown parking plan. This is the presentation I'm going to be giving to council tonight, so this is considered to be a dry run. It's not going to be a public hearing, so if you are interested in making some comments on this, there's a public comment period at the start of the meeting, so I encourage you to come do that. But you'll notice through here there's some things that we're going to be asking council to make decisions about, and so it's that's going to be part of the plan. Why don't we go ahead? So this is what you've seen before. These are our objectives: is to basically create adequate parking for downtown customers. That's whether you're business owners, you live downtown, play downtown or do anything else, including deliveries, because we only have one loading zone identified, which is out in front of Pioneer Street side of Overlook Park. We've had requests that really we need to have something. And then we're updating, there was a parking inventory done a few years ago. There's been a lot of things that changed in the few years ago part, like there's no longer a Pacific Wood treating plant, and so there's no longer a need for a pull truck route down Third in Division. So that means we can look at freeing what are no parking zones now for public parking. This is the real reason to have those. So why don't we go to the next slide? And these are the decision items. So I'm going to be walking through these. If you haven't been part of this before, I encourage you maybe to look at the downtown parking plan on our Ridgefield Roundtable page, because it has a lot of the background of this. But for example, on North 4th Avenue, we've kind of had a couple, well, quite a few residents and others who use it have indicated that trying to turn onto Pioneer from the north leg of 4th is challenging. That's a good term to use, I guess. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we've been talking with the neighbors along there, and we've got kind of a split decision as to what we're going to do about it. And they've offered up a solution. We've kind of developed another one through the process. So again, these are decision items. Like for 4th, it's going to be, do we keep it the two-way that it is now, remove a space or two on the east side of the intersection to free up some sight distance? Neighbors suggested also putting in a convex mirror so you could get a longer view of oncoming traffic. Or do we look at converting it to one-way like 5th in front of Union Ridge and behind the rack, which will allow us to actually create some additional on-street parking with the traffic lane that no longer would exist southbound. In some cases, we might be able to do some angle parking and it would help with that. Third is one that we've been talking a lot about, because that's one of the pull truck routes. Over by City Hall, by the Greeley building, there's a lot of no parking there that would be freed up with this proposal. The port, as part of their Greeley building planning, remodel proposals, or made a proposal for on-street EV charging stations in front of the Greeley building. So that's one of the items that council will be talking about, what we do with that in EV parking, whether it's on street or somewhere nearby off street. And then angle parking, there was a discussion at the last meeting about what does it look like if we put angle parking in a couple of the streets in the downtown area. We kind of have a little concept that's been talked about versus just leaving it the way it is. That's another decision item. Again, looking at, is there a way to use angle parking and reconfiguring downtown to add more parking in the core and proximity to intersections where there's the wheelchair ramps, because there's been a lot of comments about the lack of on-street ADA parking, which this plan is addressing. Which leads me into that. We do have the ability to designate a space for ADA parking under statute and under regulations. There's something called PROAG. I'm not going to get into what that stands for, but it's basically our ADA design standards that are nationally adopted. So do we look at designating maybe the space closest to an intersection where there's a wheelchair ramp, so the wheelchair can get out and go right onto the sidewalk system. Again, loading zones, I mentioned that. We've got a proposal for a couple spaces on North Main, in front of the hardware, South Main, in front of the convenience store there, and that discussion about what those look like and a time limit on those. Again, that's a decision item. 2-hour time limit. We've heard some people say that the spaces in front of Overlook Park, are tough to get into at certain times of the day or the week? Do we look at creating a turnover as part of that instead of unlimited? Now, I want to back that up because we did look at parking in general. We did have some observations, took some studies, and for the most part, parking is automatically turns itself over because of the businesses that are in downtown. We've got restaurants, we've got some shops, we've got other establishments where it's really not catering to somebody that's going to be there the whole day. This place, there's obviously people here the whole day, but if you look at the core, parking seems to be doing a good job turning itself over because of the businesses that are in the downtown area. So you'll notice that we don't really aren't going to talk about creating anything like a 2-hour time limit on anything other than that block in front of Overlook Park, just because of what we've seen. Let's go to the next one. So Pioneer, we've got some no parking spaces that are out in front of here. That's a holdover from the old, what Union Ridge used to have its access along here. Talked to the school district. They really don't have a need for a no parking zone along Pioneer in front of this building. So we would look at opening those spaces up. And then the Mercantile has asked if we could designate the parking on their side of Fifth Avenue as angle parking. Right now it's gravel. There's really no established pattern. We would post signage that tells people that this is angled parking. It does give them a couple more parking spaces in that setup based on depending on how people actually park in front of there. I did talk about fourth, talked about third. Why don't we go to the next slide, Mary Kay? Longer term, this plan also identifies future study items. And that's, for example, shuttles. We did have a successful shuttle last year, I think during the 4th of July parade. Steve, did we do the shuttle then? Yeah. We did it during city days. And the 4th of July one was overwhelmingly successful because it started, I think, started at the wharf and worked its way up Hillhurst. And C-Train actually had to add more buses because of that. So we want to continue that. As far as wayfinding signage to where the public parking areas are, there's one at Davis Park. There's one that the port owns along Railroad Avenue. Unless you know where they are and how to get there, you don't know where they are how to get there. So the signage would help that. We also want to look at a municipal parking lot. What does that look like? Where is it? Is it in the Park Laundry area? Is it somewhere else? Is it near the old skate park or where the current skate park is after it moves? So that's a longer term discussion, but this identifies that need. As well as what happens when the waterfront area develops under Waterfront Park, because there is a plan for an event facility, an amphitheater at the Waterfront Park. Whether or not there's ample parking for those type of events. We are planning a pedestrian or multimodal overpass along Division Street that goes from downtown into the waterfront area, which would provide another way for people to park downtown and walk or ride, because it is, right now we're currently designing it to be a kind of neighborhood electric vehicle, golf cart type connection, see if that even works. But that provides some additional mobility to get in and out of the waterfront, because we are talking about what happens if there's some type of incident in downtown and the Pioneer Street overpass gets blocked. We need another way out. So that's, I think that's the last one, Mary Kay. What's the next one? This is just a map showing what it looks like now. Go to the next one. This is a map showing this proposal. Again, there's some decision items that council will be asked to make tonight. But in the end, we're looking at increasing the downtown parking supply by about 10% with these plans. And hopefully foster a parking program that helps accentuate the businesses. So that's really what our plan is here. I think yes, there's the thank you slide. So that is what's going to be presented to City Council tonight. I want to thank a lot of you who've been involved with this effort over the last year and a half. We've tried to address as many of the issues that you all brought up and tried to identify some solutions to address those issues that go into this. I know we couldn't get everything in here, but we did study it. So with that, you want to do questions now, Steve? You want to, okay. All right, behind you.
I'm gonna go first, Bob. Okay, just the Fourth Avenue. The preference, I thought I heard you say the preference, or I was trying to read and it clicked over. There's A and B, and B is the turning it into a one-way a la 3rd Street.
Okay.
Or 5th Street, right, and then adding the angled parking on the west side, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
So which one is now preferred by, what's the preferred option, I guess is my question.
There is none. We're gonna ask council to make that decision, because when I talked with neighbors along the street,
I work at the flower
it was a
shop,
split decision, and
Okay.
so it was like, well, in fact, that one that kept it two-way, we're moving a couple of parking spaces on Pioneer
Right,
and putting in the convex mirror was one of the options that the neighborhood proposed as an option alternative to the one-way thing. So we're actually council to make that decision
Okay.
tonight.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the suggestion to have the parking on Pioneer in front of the rack is a good idea, because there's not a lot of spaces. But what about in the afternoon, when so many cars are lined up to pick up students at Union Ridge?
I think, and that's part of the reason why we're taking a really solid look at Fourth and Pioneer as well, is because when the school comes in, when it lets out, there's a long line of cars trying to turn onto Fifth, and then they block Fourth.
Right.
And so I think what my preference would be with this, we can have that discussion with council tonight, is just remove the no parking restriction and see how it works. If we need to start regulating, no parking between, during school hours or whatever it is, we can take a look at that. Because this building is used for city meetings, city business, school district business, and that tends to happen throughout the business day. And then on weekends, that parking lot gets full because of the events, sporting events that are going on. So that would be my preference, but it is definitely something that council can have that discussion.
Has there been any thought or talk to the school district about this lot over here to the east? I mean, you could put a lot of those kids that are being picked up, have the cars in there. There's a lot of parking spots that could be there. And it would help the school district too, because they do block everything here. And so, I don't know how many lots those would be, but there's quite a few there. Thanks, Steve. Scott? If you did a parking lot out.
Oh, if you took the field out, you mean?
Yep.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Because we have lots of schools with fields and stuff. They don't have, there's a few teams that practice out here, but we have lots of space.
Definitely a question for the school district. On that, I know that historically the school district was reticent to take any more out, because they obviously did take some out when they turned this into the Rockland Middle School, and that used to be the varsity baseball field. There is, at that time, they said that there was oversubscription of the field space that they have, so they wanted to leave that in there because there was concern in the community that the school district was taking out the field, and so they wanted to leave something in there. But that was a long time ago. So
And we have a new school going into it very soon, so.
yeah, that would be a question for the school district.
Actually, really nice.
Yeah, and I have not had any discussions with the school district about that field for a parking spot either, but it could be something for future consideration. Going back and forth. No. Anything else on this before we start talking about what else we're doing in the world?
I think I'll just say that in the Main Street world, we talk a lot about parking because that is a characteristic of a successful, thriving downtown. So congratulations to all of us. I think what's unique and was noticed by the Washington Main Street Group is that we have not only the city, but the port and the school district all working together on how we're gonna solve this, which is a really positive and unique thing. The other thing is that I think what we're seeing as events grow and people come to downtown is we see where people are finding parking, and I think the response from the city to adapt to, oh, you know, this might be a possibility. We saw that out of the other side of the refuge. And I commend the city and everybody working together to work on this, and it's an open thing. It's a sign of a successful downtown. So thank you.
My wife and I did come down, went to the neighborhood refuge Saturday night, and Sunday night we came back to Ridgefield Craft Brewing and noticed the parking, especially on the neighborhood refuge side, was very busy. But I'm looking forward to my Main Street moolah that I did put in for. So.
You got it. I got your email.
All right.
Let's stay downtown. So before we go out there's a lot going on, and Chuck's gonna talk a little bit about where we are on the Pioneer Widening project, just because obviously it's a little bit further out, but it impacts us downtown extensively. But before we leave downtown, can you put the map back up, please?
Yeah. This one? Or?
Yeah, that. So a couple of things that we wanted to give you a quick update on. First thing is when we were talking about the downtown parking plan, one of the things, so Overlook Park here,
The next slide.
as you go, no, right here's good.
This is the existing. This is the.
It doesn't matter, either one, either one's fine.
This one was
So,
bigger.
go ahead to the form, the next one, that's fine. So, right
We're
here,
on the same.
Too many
Yeah.
cooks in the kitchen.
so this area right here, future parking along Sargent Street as part of a CDBG project. Chuck mentioned it, but just so that you can kind of have that in your heads, we have a community development block grant for a project on Sargent Street to actually add sidewalks and enhance our storm treatment in that area on South Main. When we talked about that project, council said, well, it'd be really good to have additional parking. Just for what Chuck was saying is that, with neighborhood refuge there and with the events we have at Overlook Park, it'd be good to have more parking in that area. So council asked the question, is there enough room there that we could do some angled parking along Sargent? And the answer was yes. So Chuck took a look at it. Our team looked and said, yeah, as part of that community development block grant project, we'll be able to actually put some angled parking in just as you turn the corner by Eagles View Park. So gives additional on-street parking, or at least side-of-street parking for that area. So something to look for in the future. The other thing I wanted to make sure that we gave you an update on is Park Laundry. Excuse me, that frog in the throat. If I can get myself oriented. So skate park's right here. This is Park Laundry, where the police station used to be. Those lots that have been fenced and have been cleaned. For those of you who aren't aware of it, I think you all are. But Park Laundry is what we call the remediation site that is on Main Ave. This was a laundry facility. It was a dry cleaning facility for years that was dumping chemicals into the ground. So as part of the downtown looking at an integrated planning grant to figure out what are the sites downtown that needed to be cleaned up. The Greeley building was one. The area right across from City Hall was two. The third one was Park Laundry. And for 20 years, there's been work that's been done by the city to try to get to the point where that could be remediated and cleaned. Why? Because it needs to be for it to be able to redevelop. Because no private entity can come in and develop it without it being cleaned, because it doesn't pencil. It's just too expensive for them to be able to do that. That's why when the port picked up the Greeley building, amazing opportunity, because no private entity is going to be able to do the work that's necessary to really bring that back to life that the port can do. So that's why public entities are so important with that. So over 20 years, we get to it. We finally, after all that time, get agreements in place with the Department of Ecology, with the ownership all figured out, and we get to remediation. That's what's been going on. The pile of dirt, the big hole, the shaking, sorry about that. I actually, the first time it happened and I'm in my office, I'm like just about under the desk, thinking it's like an earthquake's happening. And they're like, no, that's them driving those steel girders into the ground. Those are all out. Those are all out. The dirt, the big pile of dirt, that was remediated dirt. That was dirty dirt. So the dirty dirt is gone. There was more dirty dirt there than we had originally anticipated. That's always a fun thing. So there was a bigger pile of dirt that had to be taken off to another site where it can be dealt with in an environmentally sensitive way. And then clean dirt was put back in the hole along with some gravel and rocks to make sure that we actually build that back up. That work is now done. The next thing that you will see happen there is they're doing injections for the rest of that area to make sure that the groundwater is no longer contaminated. So that's the next piece of that. By the beginning of April, we expect that to be done and the site to be remediated. So remediated doesn't mean that it's not monitored. We have long-term monitoring requirements associated with it. But what it means is it's ready for redevelopment. It's ready to actually become something different. So in early April, you'll see that change. What I wanted to mention and why it fits with the downtown parking is, obviously before the remediation started, there was a temporary parking area that had been set up there by actually Terry Hurd from the Sportsman's, working with the property owner in the city to make that happen some years ago. But it was always a temporary parking area because it can't be a permanent parking area. City code does not allow for parking lots, surface parking lots, to be a primary use on Main or Pioneer, because there's very little actual frontage space, right? We have very little street frontage to have buildings, to have the people interacting with spaces. So the city code says, no, we want buildings so that people are walking and they're coming by and they're actually interacting with storefronts. So that is not set up to be long-term, an off-street parking area, but my expectation is, and we'll certainly go ask council for their thoughts on this, but my expectation is they will likely say, okay, until we have a redevelopment proposal for it, let's go ahead and restore it, at least our portion that we own, the city owns, to temporary parking. So we'll have some off-street. Now, there's longer term conversations about where else can we do off-street parking. That's not part of the discussion council will be having tonight, but it is a conversation council has a lot about what are we going to do to make sure there is off-street parking. So that is something that you will continue to see more of. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that, and then we can kind of shift up the hill to Pioneer widening. So I'll hand it back over to Chuck.
Before we leave Park Monday, there's one other element with that. Remember I mentioned the mobility, accessibility and mobility plan. There's some damaged sidewalk along Simon Street. The contractor is to put that back. What we did was we also, we have this transportation benefit district that's a voter approved sales tax. And we have some money in there set aside for sidewalk improvements. So we're able to take some of that money, add it to the contractor's contract, and they're going to replace the entire sidewalk along Simon Street. And if you're over in front of the, what is that? That's not skate park. Is that skate park?
Yeah.
And
bunnies and
yeah,
moving.
as you go toward Third, that sidewalk is pretty broken up on Simon. So this will give a whole new sidewalk on that street length. Now, we know we have more, which is why we're studying, how much more. But this is the opportunity, while we have a contractor there replacing concrete, let's just have them buy some more concrete and fix that whole sidewalk. I'm going to shift east. First thing I want to do is, one of our CDBG projects is called G Creek Loop. It's at G Creek Meadows. I don't know if you know anybody who lives in that neighborhood, but we're having an open house here, Monday the 24th, to review the plans for that, have a discussion. So I've been getting a lot of questions about traffic and parking in that, just in general. So we're going to have that neighborhood discussion. So if you know anybody who lives in G Creek Meadows, Monday the 24th here at 6 o'clock is the time to come and have that discussion. Now we'll keep going further east, and there's this little project called Pioneer Widening. We're getting very close to being a month away from the April 22nd date that we had planned to reopen. So right now they've been doing, and you'll see on our Facebook page a lot of photos, drone images, by the way, of what they've done and where they are now. There's been a ton of work to put in sewer, water lines, stormwater facilities, starting to put the road bed in for Pioneer. So when they do reopen it, I mean, that's going to be paved over with fresh asphalt. Then we're going to be shifting to the paths, sidewalks, a couple of walls on Pioneer Canyon or Discovery Drive. Eventually, in August-ish, they'll be getting to the leg of Pioneer Canyon that goes to the northwest, and it goes right in front of the community building / potential YMCA. That provides the access to that facility. That will be one of the last phases and wraps, the project itself will wrap up in September. We're talking with the community building YMCA design team now about what we can do with the construction yard that we currently are using for the contractors. That's where the building's gonna go. What can we do to level that out or grade it so that when we pull out this fall and they come in and start breaking ground in next spring, what can we do to help move that along so it saves some money and gives them a head start with that construction? So those discussions are currently going on now. We are shifting, you're gonna see the roundabout starting to take shape in the next couple of months. Council will be getting a chance to look at what our roundabout committee has recommended going into the middle of that roundabout at the March 27th meeting. So that's another teaser. We have a roundabout committee, and they've been very active in discussing that one. I'm going to get that decision in now so that we can put it into the construction plans, what goes into the middle, and do it now rather than, come back to it after the construction's over and then try to figure out what to do with it in the meantime. What else? We got. Do we have 10 minutes? Do you want the last 10 minutes for you?
Let's keep going, I'm good.
All right.
Questions?
Any questions about park laundry?
Any of it.
Pioneer?
I
We can open it up now.
I will back to park laundry for just a second. Do you not anticipate sale and development quickly? That you're already considering moving it back to a parking lot?
There's no plan for it. So, I mean, as far as sale and development, there is not a plan for sale and development at this point.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, all right, well, if we don't have a plan already in place, then there will be some amount of time. The question becomes, all right, do you just sit on it and just keep the fence up? Our idea has been, if we can, go ahead and open it back up while we're doing the consideration of it. But again, we'll go to council to look at that. There is about a third of the site on the northern piece of it that's privately owned. That site, that piece of the site, we will likely keep fenced off. That private owner had some concerns about it being used for parking because they didn't purchase it as such. It wasn't actually a parking lot. It was just a private lot that people got used to using. And so the private owner kind of was like, I really don't like the liability associated with that. So we'll likely keep the fence up on private segment of it, which is the northern third.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope to not see any skate tracks in the new concrete that we're putting down the line.
That'd be
You
good.
couldn't even do a patio without tracking it.
No lie. Yes, sir.
Two questions. What is the criteria for like a trip hazard on a sidewalk? Is it 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch, or what is the criteria? Hey, it needs to be ground.
I use, for new construction, I use a 1/4 inch, which is really tight difference. But that's for new construction, it's a tolerance they need to meet. For the older one, we are under standards, we can do up to 1/2 inch. Above that, it is considered a trip hazard.
My last question is, there's been some talk about, is there a future roundabout in 5 to 8 years going in on Pioneer and Hillhurst?
You want to take
The quick answer is there is a signalization that will occur at Pioneer and Hillhurst. The question has been, what is it going to be? Is it going to be a signal or a roundabout? Now, our council has a priority that's been implemented in our plan that says whenever we look at a signalized intersection, our first priority is to see if we can do it with a roundabout. So that is something council directs us to do. That intersection has been planned for quite some time and is actually in when a project comes in on Hillhurst up the street, up the hill, they actually have to pay into off-street or off-site improvements, pay a little bit into that intersection because of impacts that they see. By the time you get to the waterfront redevelopment, that's when we will need some sort of signalization. at Hillhurst and Pioneer. Now, if it is a roundabout, then you need a little more space, right? So that's the issue, is that it moves traffic well, but it actually requires a little bit more space, and it's a tight intersection. What council is going to be discussing this evening is the purchase of a property that is currently for sale on Pioneer at 813 Pioneer at the corner of Pioneer and Hillhurst, and they're considering a purchase of that property for the very reason of looking at it for a future roundabout and saying, okay, if we get this property, it gives us the space to potentially be able to do a roundabout there. So that's why they're actually considering a purchase of 813 Pioneer this evening. That final purchase is on their agenda tonight.
Thank you.
Of course.
Has there been another property purchased already?
No.
Okay.
No, 813 is the only property that we are taking to council, or that we have taken to council for purchase at this time.
Thank you.
Of course.
So on the roundabout committee has its own Ridgefield Roundtable page, and there's a map that shows future planned roundabouts. And for example, at North Royal and 289th Street, that's one of them, that's a future plan. There are others. So I encourage you to get on there and take a look at that map, because we are planning to come to council in May with presentation of our updated transportation capital facilities plan, which will take a 20-year look at our transportation system, including roundabout locations.
Hi, Chuck. I live on North Fork, and frankly, I don't remember anybody from the council or the city talking to me about a parking plan. But I'm very much for making it one way and having diagonal parking on the west side. It just seems to make sense to me. So you council people that are here tonight, take note.
So if there aren't any other questions, one quick announcement. Next Tuesday at 5 p.m. at Ridgefield High School is the State of the City. That is an opportunity at 5 p.m. for you to get a lot of insights from a staff perspective of all the things that are going on, the ways that we are trying to engage with the community, the projects that are coming up. All of our departments will have a presence from 5 till 6. And at 6 p.m., the show starts. And the event actually includes our Make a Difference Awards, and this is our 3rd annual Make a Difference Awards. So we get to celebrate some of the service in our community and the people who do amazing things. And then after that is the unveiling, is the first viewing of the State of the City video that has been put together over the past months. And that includes our council, a lot of the projects that are going on and that have been going on last year that will be coming up this year, really kind of gives some insights into the state of the city, of where we are and where we're headed. So that is next Tuesday, Ridgefield High School, 5 p.m. tabling, 6 p.m. the event begins. So we hope you'll be there.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody. Any other announcements or questions before we wrap up?
Maybe one announcement, tomorrow at the Nazarene Church, the gymnasium's gonna be full of clothing for a clothes closet giveaway. And anybody and everybody's welcome to come. It starts at 5 o'clock. I would advise you get there at 4, because there's probably gonna be a big line of people waiting to go in there. But the best of the best donations have been saved for this event.
That's great. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we'll see you next for this group for an evening community meeting, and the next morning one we'll just to be determined. So we will get the word out. Thank you for being here. Thank you again to our speakers for being here, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.